Well, I did want to ask because you mentioned, your therapist. You mentioned how we're trying to figure out promotional events because you're launching a book. And I always point out that when we do this, when we talk about the elephant in the room, it's May 19th is when we're recording this. So anything historical that's happened after May 19th, we don't know about. The aliens didn't land until May 25th. No idea that happened. And why not? They're crashing in Mage, Brazil this week. Has been the big news I've been following. I'm sick of the coronavirus. My God, tell me about the crash flying saucer in Brazil. But I do want to ask about launching during quarantine, and also how that's impacting your launch, how you're finding ways to promote, and also how that's impacting your writing. And it's up to you who wants to go first.
I'm going to go first.
Fair enough.
Because I want to. We actually had a Zoom, the only Zoom we've ever had in our entire career, to discuss how we were going to do marketing for Camp Murderface, because obviously things are so different. And we decided that, we knew that we were going to be on your show, and thank you for having us. And we had planned to put together like a short run podcast series where we ask other authors to tell us like the scary story from when they were a kid or their camp story, something like that. But like all of the things that we had originally planned way back in the beginning, we can't do them. And we were like, well, maybe we can get into a whole bunch of classrooms, or maybe we can do a whole bunch of online events. And it ended up being a really sad conversation because ultimately we both kind of realized is like, kids are already on the internet in classroom all day long. And the last thing they want to do is come to another class-like event in their free time. And it's just really tough because, anytime that you write a book and sell it, it's like, well, maybe this will be the big one. And Josh and I have joked about how these books are going to make us bazillionaires, and they're going to ask us to write 47 of them and everything else. And some of it was jokes, but there's, a lot of wishful thinking in that too.
Oh, don't forget your old friend, Middle Grade Ninja, when all that happens.
Right. And so, to realize that the book is going to come out, and knowing that middle grade is driven so much by libraries, which are closed, and schools, which are closed, it does, there, for me anyway, there is, a measure of grief that goes with this, because we were so excited about getting to launch this, and like, we were planning like, camp overnight in the library events, and maybe we can hook up with this summer camp and like all kinds of stuff, or like, doing a small tour and like, starting in Pennsylvania and ending, in Bethlehem and ending in Indianapolis and Indiana. And it just all went away. And there was nothing that we could do about it. And we drafted a lot of Murderface 2, right as everything was starting to shut down, because I think it was in February that our editor was like, could you guys have this done by May 1st? And in February, we were all like, sure, no problem. And then the world just stopped, and it was really hard. It was really hard to write that book and to be joyful about it. There were a lot of early chapters that we both rewrote a lot of stuff, because you could tell that we were sad when we were writing them. And it's like, but the characters don't have to be sad. So, I think that we had plans to buy a t-shirt cannon. A t-shirt cannon.
That could still happen.
That is happening.
You could drive by and have kids stand outside and just shoot at them with a cannon. That's socially 6 feet apart, socially distant.
Social distance t-shirt cannoning.
Swag delivery.
There's nothing overly personal about a cannon. I would say that would.
But yeah, things have changed a lot, and so now we're trying to do the stuff that we think that people would enjoy doing anyway, like, listening to your favorite authors talk about ghost stories, or, watching or listening to a podcast like yours that people were enjoying anyway, rather than trying to basically shove more what might feel like classroom down a bunch of kids' throats who are already going through so much. But there was, there was that grief that is like, this goofy, happy thing that we came up with in a truly goofy and happy time is now coming out now. And my hope is that, even if they don't want to watch a Zoom about it, that they do want to go to a haunted camp and quit thinking about all of this. So that's my hope.
That's right. Nice paper book comes in handy, because I'd become a snob and was hauling my Kindle around prior to quarantine. But now I'm online interfacing with everybody all the time. And my God, when work's done and it's book time, give me the paper. Give me away from the screen. I'm sorry, Josh. I wanted to give you a chance to chime in as well. What's been your experience with this?
I mean, that I feel like every writer's had a different experience during this time period, because to some, just at first thought, it may think, hey, well, that's a good time to have a deadline, is when you're trapped in the house. What better time to be on deadline? But first of all, if your mind is not in the right place, then that's hard. And second of all, if you have a job like mine, you're always on, kind of like, and even when the building's closed, there's like, the work day is like so blurred now, like, you don't know when anything happens. Like, it just, your phone goes at different times and emails and who knows what. So it's very like, it's very, very disorienting, this whole time period, I'm sure, for lots of people, myself included. And I think that, I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like,
Josh, I think we might have lost you for a moment.
Oh no! Come back, Josh. Uh-oh.
Yeah, no, he's really gone.
Well, I will tell you that there was one point, because he's the director of the Bethlehem Public Library. And my wife works at the Indianapolis Public Library. And so, I've been kind of comparing and contrasting some of the things that they've been doing. And before Josh's library actually shut down, there was a meeting with a handful of people, the mayor and other people from the city county building. And somebody turned to him and said, so what do you think they're thinking about doing at the library? And Josh is in his head going, I am the one who's thinking the thing. He's ultimately the one who's responsible for all the decisions that are made about the Bethlehem Public Library. So, while certainly things have been kind of tough for me, because I'm worried about my family, and I'm worried about, trying to make sure that everybody gets groceries, and, to make sure that the grown-ups and, my aunt, my mom, are not going out to the grocery store. Josh literally has hundreds of people's jobs in his hands, and he has a huge responsibility when it comes to, the well-being of his employees and of his patrons, and especially because they do lots and lots of stuff with kids in his libraries. So, I've watched Josh, and the fact that he managed to continue to write Murderface while also managing, a city's entire public library system during this has been phenomenal. I don't know how he's done it. I really don't, because he has had so many big things on his mind that, to try and then turn that off and sit down and let's be funny and let's be scary and get things down, we're going to do that. And I'll tell you what, some of the things that I've seen him do is, because he doesn't necessarily have the luxury of, if I feel like sitting down and writing, I can sit down and write almost any time. He doesn't have that luxury, but I will see him in the document, and he will be making bullet points of, and sometimes it's just bullet points of dialogue, or it's bullet points of this is going to happen. And all the time that he's working as the director of this library system, he's also working so hard on this middle grade novel at the same time. And well, now he officially left. I wonder if he's going to come back.
We'll give him a moment, and if not, we'll get him back.
There he is.
Hey,
Josh has returned. Oh, hooray!
But anyway, so like I was saying, Josh is a big doofus, and he doesn't record at all.
Like you're saying.
Saundra was telling us about your substance abuse issues and your previous crimes. It was pretty bad.
Oh no.
No, but seriously, I was talking about how hard you have worked, because you're responsible for an entire library system, and at the same time responsible for putting down words on, a very silly, sometimes scary book, and that I've seen you, putting down like your bullet points of, this is kind of where I think I'm going to go, and like sketching in your chapters and stuff like that. And just how much I admire the amount of thinking that you have had to do. Because, my life did not change super a lot, except there were a lot more people in my house. Your life has changed radically. So it means a lot that you were able to continue to go to the Murderface place with me.
Yeah, and all I was going to say before my phone died, sorry about that, was that I think for me, it has been during this past couple months anyway, what I hope it'll be for readers. Like writing the second book has been this sort of like, with everything else that's going on in my life and in the news and in the world, whatever, it's just like, well, for part of the day, I'm just going to focus down on Camp Murderface and spend some time there and spend some time in a different world. And, and that has been a nice, it's hard to focus sometimes, but like, it's been a nice, like other thing to focus on, so, and it's always fun. Like this project is always fun. Like it does not feel like work very much. I mean, there are days that I don't feel like writing, like to be honest. I'm like, well, it's great for me to have a partner who's like sitting there waiting for the words because it keeps me honest, but it also, for the most part, it's fun. And yeah, and you see, it is funny to like share it with someone because Saundra sees like the best. He's like, sometimes I'll just write totally dumb. Not a kitty. Sometimes sometimes I'll just write bullet points, or sometimes I'll just write the most boring sentences just to move the plot along, and like I just have to trust that like that Saundra knows like I'll go back and make it better. But like it's a funny experience sometimes having someone see your first ugly draft all the way through. But there's a matter of trust there now. So
because I mean you're seeing my first ugly draft too, and it's always like I write very dry when I'm very first starting. Like I go through and I'm like, all right, this is all the stuff that happened. And then I have to go back and add like the sensory detail and like, try and make the sentences fun as opposed to, and here's a laundry list of this chapter.
Yeah. But sometimes, right. That's like, sometimes you just think about it's funny because I haven't read a lot of Stephen King's fiction because it scares me, but I do really like his book on writing. And that is one of my favorite craft books. And he does say that, and sometimes it's just literally and then the guy walks across the room. Like sometimes he just has to get across the room.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's exact quote, but it's something like that. He's like, it's okay just to write the most boring things, just to move it to the next thing, and then you can go and dress that up and make it better and better and better. But sometimes you just have to just move it along.
Yeah. So, sometimes the guy just has to walk across the room.
Yeah. He just has to get there. So, it's I don't know what I'm trying to say. It's been a good experience. It's been really fun. Even the days that it feels like I don't necessarily know if I have it in me or not. Like it ends up being fun. So
well, shout out to Stephen King, who definitely needs it. But I'd like to point out that despite all of his early success, despite those prime writing years of the 80s, that guy still got it. The Institute, my God, it's among his best. That was a year ago. I've got If It Bleeds on my audio file. I haven't got to it because I've got another podcast I'm doing this week, and I'm responsibly reading. But by God, as soon as I'm done all the reading that I for sure have to do and want to do, if it bleeds, I can't wait. So there you go, Mr. King, free commercial just for you. Thank God. Another commercial.
Feel free to do the same.
Yeah.
I think there was a new Hunger Games came out today. So Susan Collins, there you go.
Yeah.
Shout out to you.
Feel free to give us a shout out.